Welcome to another edition of the show with no name. This is Friday, July the 6th, correct? 2012. I'm Bob Going with Gavin Murdoch. We don't know if Jim got the word like he didn't get the word last week. Did he get the word last week?
I don't know. I didn't hear from him afterwards.
Haven't heard from him afterwards. Anyway. So, I got a little fan mail after the last show.
You did?
Yes, I did, from Janice Cosentino. Remember Janice?
Yes, I do.
Perky little blonde in my class there. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cute as a button. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
She enjoyed the show. She said she liked the casual nature of last week's show. You recall I had my feet up and
yes, you did.
Didn't have my tie on, and so I decided, in honor of Janice, we'd do it casual again today because it's hotter than hell here in Amsterdam, New York. Yes. Not too bad quite yet, but it's going to hit 90 again today and again tomorrow, I guess. So
yeah.
This has been one prolonged hot streak.
Yes, it has been. And
what is it?
Oh, bye.
Yeah, we're on the air. Yeah. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Yeah. All right.
Soon the fans stop by to.
Yeah, one of my fans. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That would be Mrs. Going. Anyway, so and Janice enjoyed the exposition on the Supreme Court decision and all that stuff. So.
Oh, good. It's good to hear from some of the folks out
That's
there.
I don't know where she is now. She's not in the state anymore. I don't think. Years ago, how many years ago? My sister had just moved to California, and she moved to California in '79. So it was within the first couple of years, and she was working as a waitress in a fancy restaurant in Sausalito. And Janice was living out there and came into dinner one night, and they saw each other. And I don't know if it's the same night my sister waited on O.J. Simpson. It might have been. She wasn't there too long. That was before he became O.J. That was back when he was O.J. And so my mother went out to visit not long after, and they're walking down the street. My sister's telling her the story about how she ran into Janice, and they turn a corner, and there's Janice on the street. So they saw her again.
So what you on the 4th?
Oh, well, actually, we had a big pool party here with the Roses. You recall Pete Rose was our guest a couple of weeks ago, and that's the most watched show we've had of the year, by the way. I don't know. I think everyone was interested in the behind-the-scenes look at the funeral business that we produced. So that was pretty good. And so they were here with the kids, Pete and Mary and the kids, and Bob and Jenna came up from New York, and they stayed with us off and on for a few days. They had a camping trip in between, but they were back in time for the 4th of July pool party, and it all went quite well. I've got the pool in good shape for the. Having a little trouble now. I think I got motor problem. It's a switch problem, I think. I called Tom Pasquarelli of Loose Electric.
Yes.
He'll be here today to hopefully fix it for me.
Had great weather for the 4th.
Oh boy, it was lovely. It was lovely. But we didn't have any fireworks, and we watched the fireworks on TV afterwards.
We did too. We had two parades we went to. We participated in the Outlaws parade, then we went on up to Scroon Lake for their parade. Then
that's a stretch.
Yeah, it was a long ride, and part of the band was in between. They did Argyle, so they were
split the band.
Busy. Split the band, yeah, to cover all our assignments. And we watched a very interesting program on the National Geographic channel about how they actually produce the fireworks for it, and how they make it, and how they do the choreography for it, and how it's all now electronic. So we watched the Capital 4th. We watched that fireworks.
Well, I guess was it all electronic in San Diego too?
Yeah, yes, it was. That's where we're going. Yes, most of the fireworks displays run anywhere from 25 to 35 minutes, and the one in San Diego lasted 15 seconds in its entirety. And it's funny because they had 3 barges there as well, and there was a malfunction on the main switch, and all the fireworks and all the barges all went off at the same time. It was glorious, just very short.
So I all I saw was a still shot of it. But they actually shot into the air like they were supposed to.
They all did. Yeah,
simultaneously.
All simultaneously, and it was just a mass of gold and blue and green and everything, and then that was it. The fans went crazy for 15 seconds. They replayed a number of times on the news channels, all showing the entire San Diego fireworks display. So.
We're working on iced coffee today. If you're wondering what the picture is there.
But it was good. It was a good 4th. You know, a lot of people came out in these small communities to celebrate and participate, and remember why we have a chance to do all the things we have a chance to do here.
Yeah, I don't know if you read Jamie's Iron Man story, but along the bike, I think it was along the bike route, might have been along the run, I'm not sure, but there were bagpipers playing to entertain them.
Serious, yeah?
Entertain the Iron Man as they're trudging along.
Yeah, well, I'm sure it's
a lot of stuff like that, and it makes for an interesting day. Well, let's see. We had a little excitement here yesterday. One of my neighbors up on Dartmouth Street was getting his driveway paved yesterday, and so we didn't think much when we heard a little slam bang in early afternoon out and back, and then because figured just must be the guys putting their equipment back on the truck and leaving. And I said, I better take a look. What happened was a fellow was doing some lawn work up the street and had a tractor with a trailer behind it up on top of the Dartmouth Hill.
Yeah.
Lost his brakes and came down all the way to here, flipped over. He ended up in the street all bloody and hurt, and couldn't stand up, and so we all went up, and all the neighbors came out, lent a hand, and got the ambulance there for him. The police and the fire and the ambulance all arrived, and they did their job. But boy, it was scary. It was scary. And on top of that, he's lying there in the road, and the gasoline is leaking down the roadway. And so Bob, the gas tank had flown off. The gas tank was in one place, the battery was in another. The cart was flipped over. So I got the cart.
Was he trying to put the cart before the horse?
I don't know what happened. So actually, one of the neighbors saw the whole thing. He was putting his garbage out early, and he saw him lose control coming down the hill. So he was there with him immediately.
And those who aren't familiar with the area, there are hills here.
Right here in Amsterdam, New York.
Yes.
I think we're at. I think Anna's got an app for her iPhone that says we're exactly 311 feet above sea level here on the porch, right? Something like that.
Down the bottom of the hill is probably 200 feet.
Yeah, it's 200 something at the bottom of the hill. Yeah, or at the river. Yeah. High 200s. We're 311 here, and I think the highest place in the city is 4 something.
Would that be?
I'm not sure where that is, but Upper Rockton maybe.
Yeah.
Isabel's Field.
Could be. Yeah, because you got to come. Yeah. It's higher over there than the Market Hill is.
Yeah. In the city.
Yeah.
One of the things you do is you look to see where they put the water tanks, because it makes most sense to put them at the higher places.
Right. Heard on the radio this morning that they uncovered an old map of the area from the 1700s.
Really?
And it included, and what makes this interesting is that it pinpoints the farms in the town of Florida that were burned by the British of the
Get out of here.
Yeah, it pinpoints the farms, the barns, and the fields that were torched
during the burning of the valleys.
During the burning of the valley. Yeah.
Wow, I didn't realize they had gotten into the town of Florida.
Yeah, that's what most of the map showed. I'm sure there's other portions there, but that was the highlight of what they found in there. So they can go back and maybe.
Wow, that is really cool.
Yeah.
Now that might. Did it solve the mystery of where Sir William Johnson's store was?
That was not mentioned in the reading of it that I heard.
Oh, and who found this map? Who's been discussing it?
Somebody who was looking through some old archives, discovered it.
Well,
I don't.
Wasn't our contributing editor, Mr.
No, it was not. No, it was not. It's not he.
What's his title? Colonel or Major? Major.
Major.
Major Bass.
Yeah. No. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't he that discovered it.
Because he's been looking for that.
You know, and it just shows, you know, how far back and historically important the valley is and has been in the history of the development of the country.
Well, this was the breadbasket of the Revolution.
And that's why they came through here to cut off the supplies to the colonials. You know, and it was a real civil war here in the valley, because you had people of all three loyalties taking place. Those were the Brits, those were the loyal who were for the Americans, and some who really didn't care. They just wanted to be left alone.
Well, they generally said there were about a third of each.
That's the rule of thumb.
Wow,
You know?
and never more so than here, where the Johnsons ruled everything,
And the Butlers.
Of course, Sir William Johnson was a hero of the French and Indian War, so it's not like they were not respected. They certainly were.
Yes. Yeah, and they just, you know, what would have happened if Sir William had lived another 2 years? Would the valley look appreciably different? Would he have been able to?
We'd probably all be saying, "Pip pip cheerio."
Perhaps.
I mean, he would have kept the lines open to the west, so that Barry St. Ledger wouldn't have to worry about Nicholas Herkimer or any of those guys.
And he may have been able to get the Oneida and Onondagas and Tuscaroras to be more British than they were.
I mean, well, it was Joseph Brant was his brother-in-law, right, or more or less. More or less.
Yeah.
Maybe not in law, but outlaw, brother outlaw. And of course, he was leading the Indians against
against
the valleys, burning the valleys.
Yes, he was.
Yeah. Those were nice days. You know, I spent most of the 4th actually on the Military Channel watching the old Charles Kuralt Revolutionary War series, and boy, that was good. I mean, that was history really well done on television. I don't know. I watched about 4 hours of it, I think, and every episode was excellent. And of course, there's no better voice in America than Charles Kuralt for doing something like that. Just outstanding.
Yeah, see, he was. Yeah, we watched that in between the parades when we
came home. It was superb. I forget when it was done. It was probably done around the bicentennial, I would think. I mean, Kuralt's been dead a long time, but boy, it was excellent. It was really excellent.
You know, it really showed how precarious the war was after the Battle of Bunker Hill and then Breeds Hill. You know, it could have gone either way. What happened down in New York when the British basically had their D-Day landing down there and drove Washington out.
Yeah.
You know, how fragile the military was, because you had farm boys and whatnot who were absolutely not skilled in warfare and trying to coalesce into an army.
There's a scene where, they interviewed, the guy talked about it afterwards, a sharpshooter, I think he was an officer, but a sharpshooter for the British, sees these 3 American officers in his sights and gets a bead on them, and then decided it just wouldn't be gentlemanly to pull the trigger when they had their backs to him. And he didn't want to, so he put the gun down and finds out the next day that it was Washington he had in his sights. And who knows?
That's right. And how often Washington put himself in harm's way, as they say today.
And what a great general Nathaniel Greene was. He's mostly forgotten today, and he was really the guy who saved the South. He was brilliant. Washington's favorite general. But then he died like a year or 2 after the war ended, so he was
forgotten,
largely forgotten.
You look at Gates, who attempted to have a coup against Washington,
right?
And all those types of.
And then ran like the devil when he got to South Carolina. They were praising him for having managed to go 120 miles in 2.5 days or something.
He's going the other way.
The other way.
Yeah.
Left his troops behind.
He's leading from the front, way in the front.
Yeah.
You know, it's just how, I guess, fortunate things turned out as they did, because any one of those events that they portrayed that had gone south would have turned the war.
And of course, Gates took full credit for the Battle of Saratoga, and
Right.
he nearly screwed it up. If it wasn't for
Arnold.
If it wasn't for our hero Benedict Arnold coming in to save the day against orders. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, and without the Oneidas, you know, Washington would have gone belly up at Valley Forge. They trucked down thousands of bushels of wheat and bushels of apples to them down there to help them get through. And Washington had promised them that they'd have their land forever for what they did for the Americans. And I guess the Oneidas didn't realize there was an end to the word forever after the war. You know, they were as much displaced as all the other Iroquois nations were when the war ended and were given the choice of fight again or go to Canada, and most of them went to Canada because the Americans the people on the frontier were so leery of having them for neighbors that they couldn't coexist peaceably here.
As you know, I recently read Theodore Roosevelt's 4-volume History of the American West. It wasn't called that, but it was the winning of the West. And I got to figure a lot of how the West was won. The movie, the themes came out of that book because they were all very similar themes. And it's an extraordinary story. And he went back to all the original sources, and he debunked all the popular historians on the subject. But they, you know, the India. First of all, the frontier wasn't particularly well organized, although there was some semblance of government and nationhood and stuff like that. But the Indians, you know, the chiefs would make a deal, and then the braves would go out and do their own thing. You know, they're essentially pirates. And the same with the white settlers. The ones who were on the edge thought nothing of returning the favors.
No, they certainly did. It was a very tough coexistence that.
But they talked about, the herds of buffalo that were in the east. You know, what we now consider the eastern part of the United States, east of the Mississippi. They would be. There was. You know, they would run through Kentucky for like 4 days straight before the herd ended.
Right.
And it's flabbergasting to even think about. I mean, that's what they ate. They ate buffalo. What did you eat? They ate buffalo. What else was there? Huh? No. Well, there was deer. But you know, gradually they all disappeared.
Yeah, they took the ecosystem. That's for sure. You know, but it was.
Did you see that my posting of the acoustic singing the Stars and Stripes Forever?
Yes, I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
On there.
I've looked into it a little more, and the lyrics they used were not exactly Sousa's. They were, and Sousa did not write a word for every note in the piece either. He did his verses.
Right.
But they managed to get the whole ding dang thing
Covered.
It's an extraordinary clip. I guess they've recorded it several times. I don't know if they're still in existence or not, but it's impressive.
Oh, and you think of all the marches that he wrote that are patriotic for.
I know. I was watching the Stars and Stripes Forever the other night on the TV too. It's
just amazing that he was able to crank so much out and so popular. And they still, you know, the school children still can sing them today if the schools allow them to.
That Stars and Stripes Forever is the most recognized piece of music in the world, and they love it everywhere. You know, they play it in Beijing to finish their concerts. For God's sakes, I happen to have Sousa's lyrics here somewheres.
Not the popular Mitch Miller ones.
No, not the Mitch Miller version. No, let's see. Let's try that. I got a cold. I'm working on a cold here. I should be having hot tea and honey and lemon, but I'm going for the iced coffee. All right. So we start with da 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 da. Okay. No. You're way ahead of the game.
Sorry.
Let martial note and triumph float and liberty extend its mighty hand. A flag appears mid thunderous cheers, the banner of the western land. The emblem of the brave and true, its folds protect no tyrant crew. The red and white and starry blue is freedom's shield and hope. Other nations may deem their flags the best and cheer them with fervent elation. But the flag of the north and south and west is the flag of flags, the flag of freedom's nation.
You have to run through them, huh?
Isn't that a great line?
You have to.
The flag of freedom's nation. Freedom's nation. Reagan would love that. And of course, a good verse needs to be repeated. Other nations may deem their flags the best and cheer them with fervent elation. But the flag of the north and south and west is the flag of flags, the flag of freedom's nation. Hurrah for the flag of the free. May it wave as our standard forever. The gem of the land and the sea, the banner of the right. Let despots remember the day when our fathers with mighty endeavor proclaimed as they march to the fray that by their might and by their right it waves forever. Isn't that good?
Yeah.
Well, not the performance. I got a cold, but the words are great. Yeah. Wow. Now, when the acoustics do it, they don't say "Let despots remember the day." They say "Let nations remember the day." You know, because I think you know they tamed the lyrics. They did. Now, I had trouble following this when I printed it out because, as it turns out, what we consider the traditional playing of the Stars and Stripes Forever is not the way Sousa played it. You know, it starts out with the full repeating that other nations a couple of times before they get into the hurrah for the red, white, and blue. And then the second time around, they eliminate some more. They eliminate the verse entirely, and then start going into the other nations, and then the hurrah for the flag of the three. And the third time around, they just do the hurrah for the flag of the three. Sousa did it rather than in 3 segments, in 4. So he does the what we consider the traditional opening, and then he does the piccolo segment. The second time around, he goes back to the beginning and does another full verse, and then the final chorus, bringing in the hurrah for the flag of the free. So he actually does 4 segments as opposed to 3.
Now, is that the version that the Boston Pop plays?
Oh yeah. I mean, the what we consider the traditional version is one the Boston Pops and everybody else plays. So somewhere along the line, somebody changed it.
It was edited.
To its improvement, actually. And in fact, Sousa may have done it himself later on, but I found a 1909 recording of it.
I listened to that.
And that's how the lyrics suddenly made sense to me, because there's another verse.
Right.
Dun, 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 dun. Let eagles shriek from lofty peak, the never-ending watchword of our land. Let summer breeze waft through the trees, the echo of the chorus grand. Sing out for liberty and light, sing out for freedom and the right, sing out for union and its might, O patriotic sons. And then he goes back to other nations may deem their flags the best. Da, 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 da.
Now, when was this written?
It was written in December of 1896 and first performed in 1897.
And what was going on at that time?
Well, it wasn't the Spanish-American War, which is what the movie claimed it was.
Right.
That's right. They faked it.
Oh,
that's all right.
Don't let facts get away with a good story.
That's right. He actually dedicated it to somebody who had died, I think, and he was inspired by it. According to him, it was like Gershwin writing Rhapsody in Blue. He was on the train. And I think he was on a train, may have been a boat, and the melody just comes to him. And when he got to his destination, he sat down and wrote it all out, and that was it. It was done. He did it all in his head. That's a hell of a head.
Yeah,
because that is one great number. Any way you look at it.
He had.
There are certain things I don't know. I never liked the Capitol Fourth show. To me, it's always too much popular music and not enough patriotic music. The one in Washington.
Yes, and they tried to appeal to a broader audience, as they would say.
Yeah, and it doesn't appeal to me at all. And I find a lot of things annoying. I love the 1812 overture. It has nothing to do with the United States of America.
No,
it has to do with the Russians' victory over Napoleon, for God's sakes. I mean, it's great that you have the cannons and everything, but it has nothing to do with the War of 1812 or anything else. The 1812 overture has nothing to do with it, and no place other than the cannons on the 4th of July. At least it certainly shouldn't be the centerpiece. You know, the one that they use to set off everything.
Yeah.
The Capitol Fourth ends with Bernstein and Sondheim's America from West Side Story, which is really a satire on why you don't want to live in America. You know, and you know, they're just going da 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 da. That's a great number, great number, and it's a humorous number, but it is nothing like a patriotic number. You know, if anything, it's the opposite. So you know, I don't even know what they're thinking.
Trying to appeal to a broader
and Strike Up the Band, great march, but it was meant as a satire on flag waving politicians. So the satire is lost in the play straight.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
Yeah, now give me a little George M. Cohan or Sousa any day, any Sousa. You know, I found a website where there was all these free Sousa downloads, and really, even his minor stuff is great. Yeah, he just had the natural feel for it. And he was a natural showman. And of course, he dated that girl from St. Johnsville. So.
Is that where she was from, St. Johnsville?
Well, according to Christine Orr Eggleston, she was originally from Fort Plain and then later in St. Johnsville. But in the
valley,
in the village hall in St. Johnsville is a letter that he wrote to her that's hanging on the wall, and it is just signed John. And there's a little note next to it that says John Philip Sousa.
There's just so much that we do that has been bastardized to conform to what we would like to have. If you played everything straight, it'd be so much richer and true and thought provoking than what has come out.
What an interesting era that Sousa era was. I mean, we're talking the 1880s, 90s, up to 1920s. Really, I think he died in the 20s. Was still performing, but it really was. You know, they had the afterglow of the Civil War.
Yeah.
You know, the patriotic spurt of
the American Exposition of '76.
Yeah, that right. You had that's right. You had the 100th anniversary, the centennial. You had the Spanish-American War was brief and victorious, and then you had the World War I, rah rah rah. So I mean, it was quite the era.
And that was such a switch over from primitive America to the foundation of technological America.
Yeah.
And at the end of the Industrial Revolution, you're going from kerosene candles in the house to electricity in the house. You're going on the threshold of walking and horseback riding to riding in a horse-drawn and a motorized carriage. You know, you've got the expansion of the railroads and people having a chance to no longer spend their entire life in a 15-20 mile radius.
Right.
And having a chance to go someplace to visit, not simply picking up and moving to a new place and living there.
I read a biography of John Quincy Adams a few years ago. It was around the time McCullough's book had come out on John Adams, and I read that, and then I said, well, I got to find a good biography of John Quincy, and I forget who wrote it. It was excellent. And, you talk about a guy who lived through the change of everything. He's 14 years old. He's an assistant to the ambassador to St. Petersburg.
Right.
But, I mean, he starts out when it takes days and days to get to Washington. or Philadelphia for that matter, from what became Quincy, Massachusetts. And then, as he's growing older, they get the Yankee Clippers taking them down, and then they got the steamships getting them down faster. Then the railroad comes, and he's an old man out visiting what was the frontier of the Northwest Territory, traveling by train and getting this great reception out there in Illinois and Indiana, and what happened during the Industrial Revolution that took place during his lifetime was phenomenal. And the other thing was, there was a article several years ago in American Heritage magazine. It was called "When Did Our Ancestors Become Us?" And it talked about a lot of different things. Up until almost the mid-19th century, the primary cleaning agent in most people's houses was
urine.
They would keep a urine barrel, and it would break down, and essentially, the way today we use ammonia, it essentially broke down into ammonia, I guess. But that's how people cleaned their floors, cleaned everything. They would scrub with urine.
And urine was used in dyes to affix to the wool that people wove into the great majority of their clothing. It was used in the making of the gunpowder. That the black powder that was used up until the late 1870s, 1880s. It had multiple purpose.
Right.
But it was just such a change. I mean,
It talks about stove. When the stoves first came into houses. I mean, people were living in primitive.
Yes, they were.
Primitive conditions. They had one pot over the fireplace and,
all day,
and that was it. And they would throw food into it, and that's what they would eat.
It was all labor-intensive activities just to survive, on a daily basis.
Yeah. So the answer was somewhere around the 1850s, I guess, when you had the trains starting to unite the country, and the telegraph comes in, and things like that, and all of a sudden, I mean, just imagine what it was, just Lincoln's lifetime. I mean, he grows up on the primitive frontier. I mean, really primitive frontier in Kentucky and Illinois.
He was on the far side of the
and the Civil War comes around, and he's up all night with the Secretary of War getting telegraph messages from the front. And by the end of the war, the Signal Corps was so well organized that Grant would be able to move his army, and within 30 minutes of parking at their next stop, he was in complete communication with every unit on his front. Which is astonishing when you think about it.
And Washington was waiting days to find out any information.
Sure.
He'd take days to get to where he wanted to go, and days to come back to.
Yeah, I mean, I was amused in that Corral show about George III gets word that Ticonderoga has fallen, and he's elated. Well, now we've won. And by the time he gets that message, half the war is over. I mean.
Yeah. It was a long time in hearing, and it's hard for us to envision those conditions because we get news before it even happens. It seems like
now, sure.
But back then, it was just word of mouth. What was going on.
What was it? 4 or 5 years ago, they were running those ads on TV of somebody getting a proposal, and they click on their cell phone and get a picture of the ring and send it to all their friends.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, that was no more than 5 years ago, I don't think. And now it's just so routine. It's like everything we do. It's instantly.
Don't even think about it.
Pictures from the Iron Man went to everybody immediately.
Yep.
Wow. And now with these iPads they've got, holy mackerel.
You're seeing it live.
Seeing it live.
That was One of the big boosts to the Arab Spring last year was the ability to transmit instantaneously things that were going on, and what to do, and all this is just, I guess it's beyond me, I guess, because we still from the last generation, we're trying to catch up with technology as opposed to technology catching up with us.
Well, I have my cell phone's charging inside. It's holding a charge for about half an hour these days because the time I dropped it in the pool last summer, it's finally catching up with it.
It's you watch some of the movie channels, you know exactly when it was made by the size of the phones that the people are using.
Well, the old Seinfeld episodes. Remember when he didn't even have a cell phone. He had a portable phone that was this big.
Yeah.
And that was state of the art.
Yes, it was.
In 1991, back in the olden days.
Yeah. Yeah.
20 years ago. Wow.
Yeah, I was just thinking back on my mom, what she saw. When she was born, there was no planes. When she was born, people didn't have telephones. There was 3 cars in town. You're still getting ice daily from the Iceman to put in your ice box if you have.
And the Iceman was my grandfather.
See,
up until a few years ago, I would still occasionally run into somebody who used to get ice from my grandfather, and he's been dead since 1934, since January 34. In fact, remember Steve Lewandowski ran Steve's Hot Dog Palace?
Yeah.
Steve used to work for my grandfather.
Oh, he did?
When he was a teenager.
Yeah.
He would roll the ice truck. Yeah. He'd deliver the ice.
It's just unbelievable.
He must have been in rivalry with the Sweet Ice Company. That's why those girls don't like me. My father-in-law, Mary's father, was born in 1902, a year before the Wright brothers flew, and he remembered the first plane that was seen in the Amsterdam area.
Coming down.
Yeah, and I forget what the circumstances were. It was like 1912 or something like that. He was maybe 10 years old. The first time a plane flew down the Mohawk Valley. And then there was an airport in Tribes Hill, and then there was one over by St. John's Cemetery. Airports, there were fields.
Yeah, like you thought down Gay Valley down there on the Mohawk.
Yeah.
That's how they were.
Yeah. This is amazing. Yeah, and he saw it all. He saw the first plane to fly over Amsterdam, and the Apollo moonshot featuring Rocco Petrone.
So he was part of that crew. Yeah. Thank God for duct tape.
What's that?
Thank God for duct tape. Apollo 13 would never got.
That's right. It wasn't for the duct tape. That's right. Yeah. You guys got any duct tape up there? Yeah.
Just happen to have some.
Just happen to have some. Yeah, you never know.
Don't leave home without it. Yeah, when we traveled with the kids, when we used to take the high school kids all over, we told them you got to bring duct tape. Okay, everybody's got to have a roll of it. Something happened to your suitcase,
right?
Duct tape it up.
Well, perfect example. They're getting ready for the Ironman out in Idaho, and one of the first things Jamie sees when he goes to the starting point is this poor woman who was putting on her wetsuit, and it's split on her. And these people got duct tape, and they were taping up her ass.
They ducked her together.
Yeah, I mean, they roll after roll to the wrapping her tight in the duct tape, but she managed to get in the water. I don't know if I mentioned that there was a guy who died during that. He was, and I think he shows up in the official movie. In the background, you see them carrying this guy out. It was like 20 minutes into the swim, and they noticed he wasn't moving. Go pull him out of the water. Did the CPR for 2 days, or something. Well, I mean, they didn't do CPR for 2 days, but they did CPR until they got him to the hospital and kept him alive for a couple of days. But that was it. Like 44 years old or something.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I can barely remember that long ago. when we were 44.
And Jamie met the Iron Nun. I forget what her name is.
I thought,
82 years old,
Yeah.
and doing Ironman.
oh,
Yeah, she was just volunteering at that one.
oh,
But she's doing Ironman Hawaii.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, of course, he says, well, you have to be in the top so many in your age group to even participate. He says, well, there is nobody in her age group.
She gets to go. She gets a free pass.
So it's like yeah, George Burns. You know, why don't you date women your own age? There are no women my age.
Oh,
Oh wow. Well, let's see. That's what's going on in the city.
they had a meeting last night of the Common Council that started early because it wasn't going to be on camera, so they got going early before people got there and passed a few things at a
Why were they meeting on Thursday?
special meeting because people are probably not around because of the holiday, so you're going to have a
Oh.
smaller audience.
Well,
They said they're
Tuesday
big-
would have been their normal day anyway.
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
Hey, what are they doing? What's it going to look like down by Verizon when they get all done? The construction down there.
Oh, I have no
Can
idea.
you? Is your imagination?
Well,
good
I mean,
enough to
years
see
ago,
what-
years ago, I saw the plans because they were started. Oh God, I don't know whether it was early Emmanuel or late. I think it was early Emmanuel. They did the plans for that. They're like the first year. I'm not sure. To tell you the truth, I'm not sure because I mean the plan includes. You're going to be able to go in a circle down East Main Street, up Market, then over the arterial, one of those many lanes. Well, you recall Route 5 West is incredibly wide.
Yeah.
And the reasons for that have nothing to do with the necessity of traffic motion.
Who owned the property?
Yeah.
Do you think?
Yeah.
Who can make some money by getting rid of some old property?
Well, I mean, one of our former mayors owned an apartment building, and he explained to the state how important it was for them to take that building in order to. And then, of course, they had to figure out a way to make the public safety building reach the road, which it didn't initially. So they had to widen it to accommodate the public safety building or something. I don't know. But it's crazy wide. I mean, there's a whole extra lane between Church Street and Liberty Street that is completely unnecessary, and really a whole extra lane going the other way too. So what they're going to do is you go up Market Street and you take a right on the arterial. So the southernmost lane of that highway is now going to go the other way. I hope to God they're planning on putting up some kind of barriers. And I don't know what the hell it's going to do to the post office, which will now be, where you...
You'll be coming south in front of it.
Right, it'll be going
And you'll
south.
be able to put your mail...
Right,
You're going to have to have a passenger put the mail
Right.
in the drop box.
if they do that at all.
That's
I don't know whether they're planning on making Chuctanunda Street one way again or not. But it's funny, you go through these things every few years, and everybody's got... I don't know. I really found it hilarious to read the 1941 stories about building Federal Street. Federal Street did not exist. That's the street that runs from just below the post office over to Chuctanunda, behind the buildings on Main Street.
Yeah.
That did not exist till 1941. And all the glorious news stories about how this was going to solve all of the downtown traffic problems by allowing you to go behind the buildings on Federal Street. Whereas East Main Street was such a mess.
Yeah.
Because everybody was shopping there.
Well, I guess that's a good reason to have a mess because you have people there.
Well, that's it. One of the things the arterial system was designed to do was to eliminate the downtown traffic problems. Well, one thing they succeeded in just brilliantly, right?
Yeah, they eliminated the traffic problem as well as...
By eliminating all the businesses.
Yeah.
It's funny how that works because, the businesses rely on the traffic.
If you can't get there, you're not going to have business. You can't get there from here. I have a hard time visioning what's going to happen because it takes people forever. There's not a week that doesn't go by that I don't have to pull way over on Guy Park because somebody's coming the wrong way.
Oh, I know, absolutely, and of course, you and I both use it all the time. And you're right. There, at least once a week, if not more. And in fact, when we were doing the show from Guy Park Avenue, when WCSS was down there, across from the Dollar General, there wasn't a show that we did when we wouldn't look out the window and see a car going the wrong way. And there are a lot of places where you can pull out from a driveway or a parking lot or a side street and not notice the one-way sign, or maybe there isn't even one there. And they just go on, and they go all the way down to the light at Wall Street, constantly. And frankly, I don't know. Frankly, I don't know, maybe they should just make them all two-way streets again. What the heck's the difference?
Just eliminate parking on both sides of the streets, that's all.
Well, you can't,
They should be alternate parking all year long. I mean, you go down Phillips Street, you're lucky if you got good-sized cars. Sometimes you can't even get down there going one direction. You've got cars parked on both sides down there, and it was never designed for that,
Well, Lord knows what it was designed for. Well, there were no cars.
2 horses could pass.
Imagine what this town smelled like in the horse era, or any other town in America.
After a while, would you even notice it?
No, you wouldn't. That's the truth. You would not even after a while. You wouldn't notice it. Period, because that's the way it always was. That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget when there used to be a post of chief manure inspector in New York City, and I think that lasted long after the
patronage.
I think Harvey Chalmers did a book of essays when he was still alive about growing up in Amsterdam, and one of them he talked about where'd they live? They lived in Guy Park, I think. Guy Parker Division. But he talked about they used to have the horse-drawn water wagons go down the streets daily, or maybe several times a day, and their job was just to keep the dirt level down.
Kind of wash on it.
And you lived in a city, you had to be dusting and cleaning all the time because the dust level must have been terrific.
And you had to make sure you use your...
It's like living in Fonda or Fultonville after the Saturday night races,
Yeah. You had to make sure you use your shoe boot outside your house to clean off your feet because you were perpetually walking. We did the Scroon Lake Parade on July 4th. They put these horses ahead of they're in the division ahead of us and all the way down the street because they're doing a jig trying to stay out of the horse manure. And just imagine what it'd be like if there was, hundreds of horses being used in a community, with a dirt road, and how foul and filthy the communities would just naturally be because of those conditions. Misha said, "Can't the horses hold it?" No, they can't. They just go where they go, and you have to avoid it.
We're down. Well, Bobby must have been in high school because they were. The band was playing in the St. Patrick's Day parade, and so the school chartered a couple buses for the parents to go down, and we went down, and then the bus got there a little late, and we were lucky to get over to Fifth Avenue in time to see him. But Anna went with me. She was already in college at the time, and we were dashing toward Fifth Avenue. The closest we could get was about 4 blocks. I think they let us off in Bryant Park, and then we just ran like the 4 or 5 blocks to Fifth Avenue. No, that can't be right because Bryant Park is on Fifth Avenue. But nevertheless, wherever we went,
we had a ways to go.
We had a ways to go. We ran 4 or 5 blocks, and as we're approaching, we hear this thunderous roar of approval coming from the crowd, and it's getting larger and larger the closer we get. I said, what is it? What is all this applause? Is the Pope here or something? And we get over there, and it's the three guys sweeping up the manure after the horses. The guys who follow the horses and clean up they got the push brooms and the shovels, and they were getting the most applause from the crowd until the Amsterdam High Band came, and I'm serious about that. You know how many bands are in the St. Patrick's Day parade? My lord, every bagpipe in the world is there to begin with, and that parade goes on for like 10 hours.
It's a huge parade.
And I remember the Amsterdam High Band was coming, and from 3 or 4 blocks away, you could hear the crowd get excited, and they got tremendous applause because they really were that good, and are that good.
Yes. Yeah.
Are that good. Thank you, Stephanie.
Yes.
Did you go to her retirement party, or?
No, I was working that Friday. My wife went up to it, up at Rain Dancer for a retirement party. And, you know, she's put many additional hours above and beyond what she needs to do to ensure that band is successful. You know, and the booster club that she has built in support of that. You know, and the thousands of man hours they put into their fundraisers, Light Up the Sky. You know, it's wonderful. And they've got the program up there such as that twice, if you remember the band, twice in your high school experience you'll be able to go away on some real big event with the band. And if you're in chorus and band, you can go every year because every other year the chorus goes someplace to compete in this. So I mean, it's a great opportunity. And again, there's opportunities that exist in this school district that if you take advantage of them, you're going to have a wonderful experience. If you choose not to, that's on you.
That's right. Speaking of which, you were sworn in this week, weren't you?
Yeah, we were sworn in Monday night and sworn out on Tuesday. We had our official swearing in Monday evening. They have to do a board meeting as quickly as possible after the 1st of July. Monday was it. We were sworn in. We conducted a meeting. We had a number of
so what happened at this meeting? I didn't even read anything
there
about
was, Well, there was nobody from the recorder there to cover it.
Oh.
Okay. It was publicized.
What, did anything important happen? Did you elect the president, for example?
Yes, we did. We elected a new president and a new vice president.
And who were elected?
Who that might be? The new president is Dr. Nellie Bush.
All right. Congratulations, Dr. Bush.
And the vice president is Reverend Kent McCurd.
Okay.
So,
now, he was elected last year also, right?
Yes, he was. Yes, he was. He's a very bright individual who has lived other places, so he brings that kind of experience to the position.
Were these contested elections or not?
No. I won't say I was surprised, but I guess I'll say I was very pleased.
Good.
That there weren't any. I think the board as a whole has a different feel about it. I think they recognize the challenges that exist in this community, in education as well as financially for everybody at every level, and I think they're gonna work well together. I think under Nellie's leadership, she knows a great deal about education at every level, from the teacher to the administrator to the central administration to the special ed, which is a huge component of the district's operating expenses. She's a parent, so she brings a whole lot. She's very.
Almost sounds like you're talking about yourself here, Gavin.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No, I can't say that about me. But she is a real bright lady.
Yes, she is.
And she expects you to do the job as best you can, and to bring an informed opinion to any decision that you make. And that's all you can ever ask. So that went well. We made some appointments. There's the treasurer and all these things. There's a whole list of those. There's a couple of extensions of maternity leaves. There's a couple of.
I bet those created a lot of controversy.
No, they were fine. We did have a couple more retirements taking place. Tony Massinio is retiring from the high school as a social studies teacher, and Karen Golden is retiring, special ed teacher, a long-time employee of the school district. She'll be missed. there. What else? Anything?
Would you fill those positions? Or?
No, they were just posted, so now they just retired, so now they can post them, and they'll start looking for their replacements.
Okay.
So, and that was it. And then the regular school board meeting is the 4th, 11th, on the 25th is the regular July meeting of the Board of Education.
So what's the procedure for filling teaching vacancies?
Well, there's a couple of online posting sites that a district can post on. They
I just heard that train whistle. I never hear it. And then when I watch the reruns of the show, I'm startled to hear us being interrupted by train whistles going by. Because during the course of the day, it must go by 20 times a day. I never hear them, never notice them.
When we first moved down here, I used to notice the one in the morning. It used to go by, but now I don't hear it. I don't hear it.
Anyway, back to the teachers.
Yeah, they've got a number of websites that they can post openings on. They post to the local newspapers. They send postings out to the colleges, so students can check on that. And I heard that last year we had an opening in social studies, and they had over 100 applicants for the position.
All right. So who reviews those initially? Who are they submitted to?
They get submitted to the central office to personnel. After a month or so, generally the building principal and the department chair of that where the opening occurs. So it'd probably be Mr. Ziskin and Mr. Palzak will go down. They'll thumb through them all and look at them and see which ones jump out at them, and then through personnel they'll arrange interviews with the top dozen to 15 candidates, come in and see what they have to say, and then after that, when you narrow it down, then you'll make some phone calls to see what the people who are recommending them have to say. And it's very important that you go beyond what is written, that you actually make phone calls to people. In this day and age, people are often reluctant to put anything negative in a written evaluation.
Right.
And you want to make sure that
you're not missing anything.
You're not missing anything, and you're not taking on somebody's problem from someplace else. I can remember a few years ago we did some interviews, and we got down to 3 candidates that we liked for a particular position, and they all had very good recommendations, very glowing. They all had the requisite background. They all interviewed fairly well, and so I started making some phone calls. So I called the one reference that one of the references we had in this candidate. He was from up north, and I told him who I was and if I could speak to the principal, who was his immediate supervisor from previous years. He said sure, and they put me through. Told the guy who I was, so he says to me, "So how's the fishing down there in Amsterdam?" I said, "Fishing's pretty good." He said, "Well, good, keep fishing, because you might catch something." I said, "Okay, thank you very much." So that was the subtle tip-off that wasn't the candidate that you want to pick up, and then sometimes you'll have a committee of people who will also interview them from the department to get some more perspective, because you want absolutely the best person you can find to fill the roles, because it's.
So you get that. I mean, and then what do you do? Who makes the ultimate appointment?
It's the recommendation of the building principal to the personnel and the superintendent, at which time they bring it before the board, and the board either accepts or rejects the candidate that they're going to hire for the position.
Does the superintendent make the hiring recommendation, or?
Yeah, it comes through the superintendent. Sometimes superintendent will do an interview with the final candidate, just get a chance to meet them and know them. When Nellie was in charge of personnel, she would always want to have a chance to interview them. Different people are looking for different strengths, and to have input from people who know what they're doing is always very beneficial, because you don't want to get stuck with somebody. And like any other business, sometimes you do get stuck with somebody, You
Sure.
know, and ultimately what happens is it means the kids got stuck. The kids got stuck
Yeah.
with somebody, and you don't want that to happen. You want to.
Well, are there situations where the the principal and whoever and the director involved make a recommendation and the superintendent does not pass it on?
I've never seen where the superintendent hasn't where that has happened. No,
Yeah.
I've never seen that. I think it may happen in smaller districts, but district has never happened. I can say.
So they have a lot of confidence in the principal's opinion.
You have to have confidence
Yeah.
in the people you work with. Nellie and I did have a disagreement one year on a math position. I liked very much one individual. She wasn't sold on that individual. She thought somebody else, and I liked the one I picked. Part of the difference was where they're going to fall on the salary schedule. Okay,
Right.
that certainly plays a part in today's hiring.
Well, for example, if they were being hired from another school district, they'd be in a higher category.
Yes, they would. And
Yeah.
that this person had good experience and was going to be placed at a higher salary than the candidate that Dr. Bush liked.
All right, so that's a completely
different
separate
thing.
consideration.
It was, and she did like this other candidate better than the one that I liked. Okay. I will say she eventually deferred to me, and thank gosh, I was right. And it worked out fine. This person is one of the finest math teachers that works at Amsterdam High School, and all the things you want to see in a math teacher she has. She has great devotion, great patience, and one of the concerns was that she'd come from a private setting, not another public school. But it worked out well. And I do mention that occasionally to Nellie that sometimes I got things right. She says, yes, there were times. There was that one time you got things right. But I think it's the most important thing that a building administrator can do is to hire correctly. Can you have someone leave that didn't do a good job to start with? Yeah, and it's very time consuming and difficult once somebody comes in to make a case why they shouldn't stay, and it's tough. There's so many people out there. All the positions are very competitive now. A lot of schools are cutting back, so there's a lot of good people because, frankly, in New York State, it's last in, first out. It's all by seniority is how cuts end up getting made.
Right.
And there's a lot of hardworking, ambitious, exciting young people out there who
are the first to get cut.
And the first thing gets cut, and you have people who are tried and true and old and focused.
Well, the trick is to make sure you got enough people retiring every year to
keep
close those
everything
gaps.
fresh. That's right. That's right. So they got a couple of appointments coming up. They're going to have to do to fill those spots. And as I mentioned to people is that for the most part, we don't compete with Fonda and Broad Albany and Galway for teachers. We compete with Schenectady, Albany, and Troy for teachers because people who apply in Amsterdam pretty much are looking to teach in the city school as opposed to a rural school. And people who want to teach in rural schools probably aren't going to want to come to a city school. So you'll see, when they interview somebody, we're not interviewing the same people they are. Does it happen sometimes? Yeah. It primarily happens with local talent.
Yeah, right. Somebody who doesn't want to move too far. Yeah.
That's right. They want to stay in the area. We'll do that. But for the most part, we're competing with a different school districts for our teaching staff. It's a lot said to be teaching in a rural school as opposed to an urban school, but we offer a whole lot of things here in the community. The schools offer some great programs. You can tell because our kids that go on to college are very successful when they go to college and when they come out, because they've taken advantage of what we have to offer. We can lead a horse to water, you can't make them drink. You can try to pour it down their throat, but if they're going to gag it back up, there's nothing you can do. So.
Is that a Gavinism?
Yeah, it's a Gavinism.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we got a lot.
So we're in let's see, what is this? July 6th.
Mm-hmm.
So we're we're in the sixth day of the budget year so far. Any financial crises?
No crises, because the budget's set in place for this year. Monies are accounted for. There'll be some more monies coming into the district if some of the grants that have been applied for are accepted. We did lose a grant this year that we've had since I was principal. We had a grant for the Upward Bound program, which is a program designed for middle and high school students who are socially, economically disadvantaged, as well as students who are potentially the first members of the family who are on the track to go to college, to offer some support. It was in conjunction with FMCC, and they provided tutorial and mentoring programs during the school year for these students, as well as special programs over the summer, and it was, very successful. The grant was applied for through FM, with FM again, and it was we didn't get it, so we've lost that, and that's one of the things when you're involved in competitive grants. There's never a guarantee that's going to be there the next time the grant cycle comes through, and so it's often very difficult to count on those things, because if you lose them and you're losing the grant money, are you in a position to self-fund these programs? And no, we're not. We're not able to self-fund these programs. We don't have the money for
of course,
the regular. So they are going to reapply next year and see how they make out. But the Upward Bound program, not only here but nationwide, has been very successful in supporting students on their quest to get to college who otherwise may have fallen through the cracks.
Now, almost every summer there's some kind of major construction project going on in the school district. What shall we look forward to this summer?
Well, you can look for and see as you drive on Miami Avenue. They are tearing up the bus parking in front of the building, and it's going to be reconfigured finally.
Reconfigured how?
As it stands now, you've got it so you can get traffic going all the way in front of the school. The parking lot is on the far end, and buses come in that end. So at the end of the day and in the morning, you got buses coming out this way, and you got cars trying to go out that way.
Right.
And it's been real ripe for accidents since the school was built. So what they have reconfigured is you're going to have a bus loop in the front here.
A loop?
But bus will be able to come in there and park.
That makes perfect sense.
And cars would be kept separate from that section.
And they just go out the other way.
Go out the other way. Yeah.
That's a good idea.
Yeah. And
that
was probably the other second idea I ever had.
It almost seems like an elementary idea, considering that you have all the room in the world to put in an extra lane there to loop it.
Yeah, and they're going to be re-facading the front of the building. The walkway coming in is going to be updated. So that, and there's a couple of special ed classrooms when you come in from the north end of the building, past where you go downstairs to the band room. There's a couple of classrooms down there. They're going to get done. So that's going to be the last construction at the high school. The middle school's auditorium will be all done by the end of the summer, and that's going to be beautiful because they've maintained the architectural heritage that was.
Oh, well, that's a great theater. That is a great theater.
And they found things in there they didn't know they had. Some murals that were done and had gotten painted over and covered over in the past, and they were trying to see some way to preserve them. Though I'm not sure they're going to be able to do that. But the auditorium is going to be already done over there, and I think those are the big. That's the last of the building project monies we had from 10 years ago. It's taken that long to do section by section, particularly at the high school.
Will this bus loop be disconnected from the main parking lot?
As when we designed it, it was, and I still think it is. There's going to be like a walkway down at the end. I know there was some concerns with the maintenance crew, what they're going to do with the snow, because now they can just plow it through and plow it right out the end of the driveway there, but they won't be able to do that. So I won't swear, because I don't remember when I looked at the last architecture drawing of it, that is going to be separate, but cars are not going to be allowed to come in there. They're going to have to go around and park down the parking lot.
So what's being done at the middle school auditorium? Because that was my old stomping grounds when I used to do the summer shows.
Yeah, do summer stock down there.
Yeah.
Yeah. They redid the stage. They redid the seating. They're doing.
I mean, new
over-
seats.
Yeah. 'Cause that stuff was, just like at the high school. It's been 20 years since anything had been touched in there, and it's all gonna be all new lighting in there, so you can actually see the stage.
And they probably did away with the mechanical lighting system a long time ago, or not?
Yeah.
Remember how that used to work, where you would?
Did the big levers?
Oh yeah, everything was. You would program the levers between scenes, and then you throw the master switch, and it goes that way, and then you reprogram. But everything was done on the fly. My son does this for a living, and I think he would be flabbergasted at. Because all he's ever worked with is the computers, and you program the computer just like goes on now.
Like that's what it's at the high school. They've got the big
program it all in advance, and then just hit a switch saying next light cue, and it's there. But
just have an overseer.
But the old way was phenomenally interesting. Only the Andrieski brothers knew how to use it, as far as I could tell.
That's right. They were the guys who used to do that. They were on the stage crew.
Yeah.
I think that was one of the requirements. They couldn't have a play unless they had those two guys doing.
Or any of the Andrea. You had Tommy and Wayne and Pat later on, and
yeah.
No,
it was amazing. The productions that they were able to throw together
Fantastic.
for the summer.
Fantastic.
I can remember going up and watching Showboat up there.
Yeah. I wasn't in that.
Yeah, that was
Johnny Allen and Michaela Riccio. And Debbie Carterella. And Matt Cinquani as Captain Andy.
Yeah. Debbie's still around. She's down in Albany.
She's on my Facebook.
Yeah. It's amazing what that's been able to do to reconnect people.
It really is, because I'm connected now to people that I haven't heard from in 40 years. Some of them, and it's fun because they're all people you got along with, and it's fun to see what they're up to these days.
And being still here, you can feed them what's going on here in town. Because Debbie and her twin sister Claudia were always in them. They lived over there on Union Street. And Liz and Dryzak used to be one of them.
Liz, yes. They're all my Facebook friends. Liz, what a talented girl Liz was.
Oh yeah.
Well, so was Debbie.
Yeah, they could sing and. They did a great job in the summertime. In 6 weeks put on there, and you had a 3-night show that they would do. 4-night was it?
Well, here's the way it would work. There would be 2 nights of open dress rehearsal, okay? And then 2 nights where they sold tickets. So they only paid royalties on the 2 nights they sold tickets. And actually, the real dress rehearsal was often open to the public as well, which was the Sunday before. And they used to invite the nuns. All the nuns would come for
dress rehearsal?
For the dress rehearsal. Yeah, and I only recall one time when the dress rehearsal was actually interrupted by wasn't even the director, but by the assistant director, a stage manager or something, actually interrupted the show and said, "All right, so and so, get out there," But, otherwise, it was done as a straight show. God, those were fun. I talked to Bert the other day. He's still going strong.
Yeah, he goes up the hill.
Yeah. His daughter Michelle was just in a show in New York. Michelle doesn't look like she's changed a bit since she was 14. Honest to God. I said to Bert, what is it with the women in your family? His wife looks like she came out of her high school yearbook picture. I tell you, geez, Bert's got to be in his 80s now, isn't he?
Yeah.
Graduated from 88. Right? So what's that make him? 82?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. Old.
Wow. We used to do all the rehearsals down at the American Lithuanian Club on Liberty Street, the ALC Hall. And then we only got to the stage like the last 2 weeks of rehearsal. I think it'd be like 6 weeks of rehearsal during the summer, something like that. Wouldn't do the show. God. My first show I was in was South Pacific. That was 1965. I was in the Sailor Chorus. Had no lines. Then in Guys and Dolls, I had a few lines, and I was in as many scenes as John Noble playing Sky Masterson, but not doing what he was doing, obviously. I had no singing parts in any of these major musicals that Bert did. I never understood that. Other than chorus, yeah. Well, that's not true. In My Fair Lady, I had one line as a Cockney, one solo line.
What?
Let's see.
But that place used to be filled.
Oh my God! It would be just packed.
Yeah.
Packed.
Yeah. Then they go down to the Columbian Club and have the cast parties after the last show. But in the summertime, there was so much going on because you had all the little parks in the town that were staffed by seasonal employees. I worked there 1 year.
Well, usually high school seniors or college freshmen, or
they supervised the park because everything was going on. They had the arts and crafts lady, Ricky. She'd come around once a week and do something.
Or whoever, it was different people every year.
It was, they were safe places to go, and kids were there all day long.
Nice old snow cones to all of them.
That's right.
You gave free snow cones to the park ladies.
You know what time it was by what time the snow cone man came around.
That's
We were there on a regular basis, which was.
Let's face it, there used to be a lot of kids in this town.
Yeah.
I saw there was a picture in the paper the other day from the opening of the pool, and you know how hot it's been.
Yeah.
Man, it would look like there was half a dozen people in the water in this picture.
Now, talking about Facebook, did you see the video that was put up from when the pool opened from Marie Gavery?
Oh, I didn't realize it was a video.
Oh, yeah. It's all video on there. Yeah, you can see Jumbo and Bialabuk and.
Oh no, I didn't realize that. I never clicked on it.
Yeah, click on it. I was there. I'm looking. I said, yeah, there's Marie. There's his sister. There's Jumbo. It looks like Bialabuk. You can.
Right. We would all go up there.
Yeah, they all.
I think they opened. They used to open before the 1st of July back in those days. I think they only open the 1st of July now because it's the beginning of the fiscal year.
I don't know. It probably opened as.
I'm sure it was open in June. I'm sure it was open in June because I used to sell. Probably half the snow cones I sold in the summer were before July 4th.
Because everybody was still.
Because then everybody went away after that. But boy, the last couple of weeks in June and up to the 4th of July, it was mobbed.
Yeah, everybody was here. Yeah, so click on it.
The new pool.
Click on it.
We all went to the new pool. It was like a Bishop Scully hangout.
Yeah. Well,
when did that open? Was it before Scully, or it was around the same time?
I was going to say 64 or 65. It opened, so it would have been right
around that time.
Yeah. And that replaced the swimming pool down on Brookside when after they
well, that had closed actually before
50,
I even moved here. 59 or so that closed.
Yeah. Well, I can remember when I was little, my grandparents used to take me down there and we used to go
People
there.
used to dive off the rocks into that shallow pool. I mean, it was crazy stuff.
That was just the way it was. And then they closed it when they had the polio epidemic came to the United States.
Periodically, yeah.
I remember they closed it down that one summer, and they used to have a pavilion back there too. You used to be able to change in the pavilion, and then it just got into disuse because after I think it was like 56.
Well, I think what happened was they started testing the water. They became a little concerned because you had all the E. coli runoff from all the cattle upstream.
Well, that didn't change. It was doing that before.
It was doing that before.
Now people got concerned about it.
Oh yeah, in the old days, in the polio era, they used to.
Just don't open your mouth around the water.
We're just old enough to remember that. And there were people in my class who had polio, and not much behind me.
No.
And I can still remember the incredible relief that I experienced from my own parents and the other parents in the neighborhood when they came out with that vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was a kid up the street that had polio, and they had to lock you indoors during the summer because whenever there was a polio and the newspapers would be filled. Well, we've only had 14 polio cases this year. Well, the ones they had ended up in iron lungs.
And I remember seeing those on TV, and this is what happens when you get polio. You live in the iron lung there. And I remember going down to Guy Park School and getting the little sugar cube with the
that was
vaccine
later.
on.
That was like 61. Yeah, 61, I think.
I remember. I don't remember getting a shot, though. I know we got the
I
shot.
I do remember getting the shot.
Getting the vaccine.
The vaccine came out in *54, and I think it was the summer of *55 that that everybody got vaccinated. It was during the summer, and I remember we went to our local elementary school at the time. We were down in Westmere. It was Westmere Elementary School. I was not yet in school. And I remember standing in line for the shots, and I remember seeing a kid about 6 in front of me. Whoever gave him the needle, he ends up bleeding out of his arm. It's funny the things you remember, but when you're that little, you remember these traumatic things.
Yeah.
And I remember the pain of the needle, but I remember the relief.
So you won't get it now. I remember going down.
There were a lot of kids in my era walking around with the braces on their legs and crutches.
Yeah, those little half ones. Yeah, I went down to Dr. Casano, down at Mohawk Place, and I went down and got my shot. I don't remember going down there. I don't remember. I got all my vaccinations from him, so I don't remember which one it was. But too, when you remember all the parks, most of the things that the kids could play on in the parks would be illegal now. I mean, you got the monkey bars.
Oh, sure. Yeah, the monkey bar.
You might fall and get hurt.
Yeah, right. I was talking with
on cement.
Barbara Zukas Hitty. They used to live on. In those days, they lived on Meadow Street, and we didn't realize, or maybe she figured it out, because she asked me one day. We used to play together as kids, and I remembered her, and she remembered me. Once we started talking about it, we used to play on the monkey bars together down there, and I can still remember the smell of the metal and the rust on your hands from it. And those were real monkey bars.
Yeah, they were.
They were those cubicle things. Very intricate, and
the pipe. It's all metal pipe.
All metal pipe. Yeah.
And you had the ladder you call across on your hands, and you had the swings of varying heights. Those wooden swings. You could get up high down.
You could get really high at the Harmon Field. Absolutely, because those were. And you'd always hear these stories that somebody had broken their back going over, and it's physically impossible to do it. It can't be done. But we would hear about it.
Yeah. Just to scare you.
Yeah. So a few years ago, a kid broke his back down there. One of those urban legends.
Yeah, urban legends.
Urban legends on Brookside Avenue.
Urban legends before they were.
But that was a nice park, but they closed it as soon as the Veterans Field Park opened, which was understandable. I mean, there's no point in having two in the same neighborhood. But, why was that called Harmon's Field?
Because Harmon Killebrew once played down there?
Nope.
I don't know why.
And it wasn't Tom Harmon, the football player, either.
No?
No. I came across this. I think it was in the 20s. It was like Andrew Carnegie. There was a philanthropist named Harmon. Out in Tennessee or someplace, who set aside millions of dollars and built parks in every city in America, just about for the kids. So there was a Harmon's Field everywhere, and it was named after him. He provided the money to provide the. It's actually a little dance hall there, wasn't it? That pavilion.
Yeah, I don't remember using it for that. I remember using Belgo back.
Oh no, I mean we didn't. Yeah.
But there was down the right-hand side, the gray. It was a circular pavilion.
And did you ever hear the urban legends about the cave there?
Yes, I remember my grandparents telling me about that up in the hill there, up where behind Selbert's place.
On the hill bordering the Selbert property. Yep. It was like, the Selbert's property was stately Wayne Manor, and there was a bat cave underneath. And the cave was supposedly on that, originated in Harmon's Field, and the city closed it up because some kid got stuck in there or something like that. Now, the real urban legend about it is, nobody will say exactly who the kid was. You know, it was probably somebody who was still alive in their 90s. But that some kid explored the cave and it went all the way up to Broadalbin.
Oh yeah.
I like to think that's true, and it's possible because you got the Bun Creek bed going through there. It is possible that once you got through that narrow opening, that it actually opened up pretty wide, and went all. You know, so we probably got a potential Howe Caverns
right here in Amsterdam.
Right here in Amsterdam.
How about that?
But yeah, I mean, I talked to some older people who remembered where the cave entrance was.
Yeah.
But I never got them to point it out to me, so I could bring a shovel up there someday.
Oh.
There was a very, very, very short and narrow cave, kind of high up on the wall, on the Selbert side. Tim Blanchfield was able to get into when we were little, but it only went like in and out. The entrance was right here. It was like you go in this end of the couch and come out of the other end. Yeah.
I remember the trolley tracks up there.
Yeah.
You know, and they were old then. They've been there for a long time.
You actually remember the tracks? The trestle being there?
No, I don't remember the trestle. I remember the tracks being on this end of the Selbert property.
On the Brookside end.
Yeah.
The upper Brookside.
Yeah, I don't remember the trestle.
But it used to go behind Zanella's gas station, and then there was this huge trestle that kept it level until it hit Brookside Avenue, kind of at the top of the hill above Harmon's Field.
Yeah.
And from there it went up Brookside.
Do you remember the trestle?
No, that was way before my time.
I don't remember. That's the field I worked on. I worked on Harmon for my summer. Yeah, me and Patty Kutzak. One of the three, Kutzak, Tumadevich, and Tuck. They were the three majorettes in class of '69. They were the three. You never saw one without the other. All three of them were always together at the same place. You know.
Which Tumadevich?
Huh?
Which Tumadevich?
Linda. Nancy Tuck, Patty Kutzak, and Linda Tumadevich. Yeah.
Nancy's a nice girl. Yeah. She was my age, right? Or
class of '69.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Of course, her brother is the bullpen coach for the Boston Red Sox.
Yes, he is. Yeah. Yeah, and he gets shown every now and then out there working with him. When he was with the Yankees, they'd always show him. He's from Amsterdam, New York. Really good. I mean, they already loved him. Posada loved him.
When Veritek retired, the guy he credited most with his success was Tuck, which is amazing because Tuck didn't come around till well into. Veritek had been around a long time before Tuck got there, but he just praised him to the sky.
So did Posada.
Yeah.
You know, he's a great teacher.
Yeah, that's what he said,
He's had a good career. You know, went from here to.
And he was a catcher himself, right?
Yes, he was.
And he was actually started out as the bullpen catcher for the Yankees.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. Because he went to University of Arizona State. That's where he started, and he just worked his way through the minor league system as a coach, and he was
and he managed the Notre Dame baseball team for years.
No, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Forget whether it was before or after after his playing career, and maybe I think it was after he worked for the Yankees the first time. Didn't he go? Wasn't he there twice?
Yes. He went to Cleveland. He was advanced scout with Cleveland for a couple of years. Now I didn't know he was at Notre Dame, and then he came back to the Yankees, and then he went to Boston.
Right, because he was in the. When I was at the Game 5 of the 2004 ALCS, he was in the Yankee bullpen, and the next year he was with the Sox. Yeah. Good old Gary Tuck.
Yeah.
Who's the Kuchek?
Patty
Kuchek.
Yeah. Her father was a minor league baseball player. Not then, but he in his younger days, he was a ball player. He played D-ball.
He wasn't was he the guy I told the story about who had one game in the majors?
No, he never got to the majors.
Never got to the majors, not even for one game.
Not as far as I know. No.
Who was that? It was a Polish guy. Oh, well, I'll have to look it up. It'll be in my book, but I just, I can't remember.
Yeah. They all the three of them. They all were up on. They grew up by Woodrow Wilson School, up there, Cochrane and McNear, up in that area. Dave Malkowitz, all those guys, those Zaros.
Wow. Well, all the park ladies used to get free snow cones from me. Well, I must have given you a free snow. I gave the park guys free snow cones too.
I can't remember that. I remember getting the snow cones. I don't remember a free one, but that's all right.
Oh, I never charged the park people because they, those.
For those little kids.
It's part of the deal.
Yeah. And
but you were. They still had Harmon's open for at least the recreational stuff in those days.
It was open I worked there in 1970, summer of 1970. After my senior year, I worked there.
Was the playground still open?
Yeah, it was.
So it did survive Veterans Field for a few years.
Mm-hmm. It wasn't.
Yeah, I remember that.
We had a basketball court in the back. The kids could come down and play ball there, and you used to switch on. One of you would work morning, both of you worked in the afternoons, and one of you worked at night, and then you'd rotate around when you worked, because they had two people. John Armstrong. They had him down one in East Main, down by
Lower Roman.
Roman. Yeah, he was down there. Yeah.
I didn't sell a lot of snow cones there. I went
that was a small park.
It was. The roughest one. Where do you think the roughest park in the city was?
Probably the one up in Henrietta.
Exactly right. The old St. Mary's ball field, now the former Joe Isabel property.
Yeah.
I had more trouble there than any place else in the city.
It was a small park. A lot of kids were there.
Yeah.
And then at night you played softball. You had the men's softball league going out there.
So a lot of snow cones there. Yeah.
Whole mix of things going on.
Yeah, but a million kids, too many kids for the.
Because that was the only park up there.
Yeah, Judy Massane was one of the park ladies up there.
Yeah, she lived on Wilkes.
I think she had polio as a kid. And I remember. One time they picked her up and put her in the garbage can. The kids.
Did they?
Yeah. Oh. It's probably those.
She's on Facebook.
It was probably those tough Mercadani kids. Yeah, she's like. Probably Patty Mercadani.
Oh, yeah, but that was the only place up there, because Bacon wasn't open. There was just a space up there. There was no park up at Bacon. So all the kids on the Heights, if you wanted to do, that's where you had to go. That was it. I lived on Fairmount. We never went down to Guy Park. That was different territory. Everything stayed up on the hill.
Let's see. The Guy Park was. That's her name. She walks by here every once in a while. Anyway, I'll figure it out. Lithuanian girl, Mary. Father's a lawyer. Help me out here. Oh well. Anyway. Wow.
You had Arnold Ave. That was had a park there by the school. Arnold Avenue there as well.
There goes another train. And you hear the birds chirping in the background when I watch the show.
That's right. When you're here, we don't notice them.
No, don't notice them at all.
You had Isabel's Field. You had Shuttleworth.
At Isabel's Field was Janet Herbalist was up there. And Milton Avenue, we had at different times. We had Shannon Noonan was there. I think Ann Petruccione and Benny, the guy she married, were there.
Benny Wojciechowski.
Yeah, if you can pronounce it, that's fine. It's Ann Petruccione. I don't know whether they both worked there or whether Benny worked there and she used to hang out, or she worked there and Benny used to hang out. But I know they were hanging out together. Even
They were
back
both
then.
there. Yeah.
They were both there. Yeah. I think Mike Newell worked there before Shannon did. Shannon was a year or two behind. Was she in your class or a year behind? Or maybe she didn't go to Scully.
She didn't go to Scully.
That's right. Yeah. And all those, yeah. I can't remember anybody's name today. So it's a cold. It's getting to me. Wow.
Yeah. So there were employment opportunities that were provided for
God,
the
yes.
teenagers in the city to work. They don't. The only place now you got the lifeguards at the pool. That's it.
Yeah. There really are no park people, are there, anymore?
No, the city doesn't do anything with the parks. They're not supervised at all.
That's too bad. You know, in the recreation department, they have a scrapbook that was kept for about 20 years, from like the 20s to the 40s, maybe even into the 50s, of everything the recreation department did. Holy mackerel. It was unbelievable. Of course, in those days, kids couldn't go anywhere during the summer, but there were 1 million kids.
Yeah.
They used to have the annual doll parade, where the girls would all bring their dolls
up to Veterans Field. I remember, and the parks we had that.
But I mean, there were just page after page, and there'd be statistics on how many kids they served on each day and during the course of the summer, and it was absolutely phenomenal. There were major things going on at every park every day. Yeah, how many? Let's see. In our day, it was Veterans Field and Harmon's, the Hassenfuss Field.
Yeah.
Lower Vroman.
Yeah.
Upper Vroman, because they had the pool was still open at the Vroman school. The shallow pool was open.
Yes.
Open even after Veterans Field opened.
Henrietta.
Yeah, Milton Avenue, Arnold Avenue. I don't think there was anything over at McNulty at that point.
No. There was just a small ball field we used to play on, but there was no.
Woodrow Wilson, I guess, must have had. Did they have a program, or did they just have the ball fields?
No, they had a
program.
Yeah, they did.
I'm just trying to think of what my old route was. Well, one of us would park. One of us would get the Veterans Field park, and that was. We used to alternate that, except for the summer we had a guy who couldn't drive, so we would just park him there all day, and he got all the plum stuff, and the rest of us had to scrounge around these other parks. Boy, there was a lot to do, but then there were a lot of kids. I mean, you look at the size of the graduating classes today compared to what they were back then.
Yeah, we had 400 kids at the high school, and Scully had $1.25, $1.35.
Yeah.
So you got over 500.
600 kids graduating a year from high school between the two schools.
Yeah.
And what's it now, 250?
Yeah, big classes, 250. Middle, yeah. Because I saw the numbers for like Lynch. There's like 265 in 6th grade. There's 250 something in 7th, and 8th grade was 245, 250 in there. So it's six.
So you're getting smaller.
700-ish in 3 grades.
You're right, and if you're talking about that many a grade, by the time they get to the senior year in high school, there are not going to be more of them. There are going to be less of them.
Probably, yeah. Yeah. So
wow.
So you got 1,000 kids at the high school instead of 1,500.
And how about in the elementary level? What are you seeing anything there?
No, the numbers are. Somebody hit 300, one of the grades, but the rest of them are between 250, 275. It's been pretty steady.
Wow. But that's a big difference from.
Yeah, it is.
From 500-600.
Yeah, so you're 50%.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. What time we got here?
What time we got here? Got 11:45.
All right. Well, let's see. Should I? a follow-up on last week's Obamacare decision with the Supreme Court. I did some further research and find out I was wrong, as I mentioned when I posted it, and that there were in fact only 5 votes to say that it was a violation of the Commerce Clause, because in his majority opinion, when it came to that section, Roberts specifically said, "I'm only speaking for myself here." Now, since then, you never hear how these cases develop, because the Supreme Court is one of the most tight-lipped places. But this was so controversial that the whole story got out. And the most fascinating part of it is that it seems that Roberts wrote not only the majority opinion, he wrote the dissent as well. That before he switched sides, he had already written 3/4 of what became the dissent. So astonishing.
Before he was against it, he was for it.
Yeah. He was. Yes, he was voting with the majority to overturn, and 7 out of the 9 overturned the Medicaid part of it, which was fascinating. There's not a lot written about that, but that has major implications, because already 15 states have said they're not going along with it, even though the federal government's going to pay for all of it for the first few years, according to the plan.
Right, and then they're not going to pay.
But once the Supreme Court said they didn't have to, because the way the Congress had worded it, the states had the option of not taking the additional Medicaid patients, but if they did, they lost all the Medicaid subsidies from the federal government. And the Supreme Court says, it comes to a point where that's coercion, and as far as we're concerned, that's not allowed. However, if the states can opt out, but they're only opting out of the new stuff, they can still keep the old stuff.
Right.
Well, that of course throws the whole financial thing into another nightmare, and they've been lying about whether it's a tax or not a tax, and how much the cost is and what the cost. And the fact is, it's $1 trillion extra, and somebody's paying for it, and it's the middle and lower class of the United States that's paying for it. So anyway, it's all fascinating. Now, that brought to mind the fact that he wrote both the majority and minority opinions. An incident in early American history. When the Constitution was first put into effect, we elected a Congress of the United States, and then pursuant to the Constitution then and now, the Congress takes office before the President does. And in those days, the Congress took office like on the 2nd of January, and the President didn't get sworn in until March. And I'm not sure, but I think Washington wasn't even sworn in until April, was he? I forget how.
He was really late.
So in any event, they're inventing the government as they're going along. And they're inventing the traditions of the government and the rules and regulations. The Constitution is one thing, but how we actually operate is another. So they open up the ballots at one of the early sessions of the new Congress and determine that George Washington has been unanimously elected President of the United States, essentially. So James Madison, who is Speaker of the House, I guess, I think he's the first Speaker of the House, says, we ought to develop a protocol where we formally announce and congratulate the new President of the United States. So he writes up this resolution of the Congress notifying the President-elect that if he chooses to accept, he'll be the President of the United States, and welcoming him, the Congress of the United States, welcoming him to the new position. So he writes that up on behalf of the entire Congress, and it's delivered to George Washington. And George Washington, being cognizant that everything he does is going to be mimicked in the future, says, "It seems to me it would be appropriate for me to respond, thanking the Congress and looking forward to working with them, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and accepting it." But George Washington knew his limitations as a writer. So I was going to say he calls up a guy he knows can handle this, James Madison. So James Madison not only wrote the congratulatory resolution, he wrote Washington's reply, the thank you as well. Isn't that interesting? He also wrote the bulk of Washington's farewell address.
The farewell to the troops? Yeah?
No, the farewell after his term as president. Who knows? He might have written the other one too. And he actually wrote that at the end of Washington's first term, because initially Washington was only going to do one, and they talked him into doing a second term. And so at the end of his second term, he brushed off Madison's words from the first, from 4 years earlier, and updated him a little bit, changed him a little bit. But basically, Madison did everything he could to make sure that the government had established traditions that would carry on. And that farewell address is still a thing of beauty.
Well, Madison was a great writer.
Yep.
You know.
You know, there are...
He wrote most of the Federalist Papers.
Yes, and they did those on the fly. Oh, well, we need, we need 20 more sections by tomorrow morning. Okay, all right.
The brilliance of these.
Yeah, and the conscientiousness of them as well. That's, there was a biography of Madison some years ago. I think it was called The Founding Father, which is where I got those anecdotes from. Because, other people could set up stuff in principle, but Madison put them into action.
He built a house around the framework.
Yeah.
Surely did.
Exactly right. That's a good way of putting it. Good Gavinism. Would have been a good Madisonism. And he was a close ally of Jefferson's, as you know, and essentially became Jefferson's stooge after a while. But in fact, if I were to trust one guy with the government, I would have trusted Madison before Jefferson. Which brings me to the book I'm finally finishing, which is I took it with me to Idaho, and between laps of the bike, I finished most of it. And that was Theodore Roosevelt's The Naval History of War of 1812.
And was it a good book?
Oh my God! Now, if you're sitting down reading this, not knowing anything, okay? Not knowing anything, you've got to think this was written by this had to have been written by a naval officer who had been on ships all his life, and was probably now in his 50s or 60s, using all his years of experience and wisdom and knowledge to really help you understand how these naval battles were fought. In fact, Theodore Roosevelt knew absolutely nothing about naval warfare before he researched this subject. Okay? He was 23 years old when he wrote this. And the writing style differs not a whit from his mature writing style later on. His History of the West, which was written when he was probably in his 30s. Maybe early not even early 40s, because it was written before. He was only 43 when he became 42 when he became president.
He's the youngest one.
Yeah, so he was probably in his 30s when he wrote that, and then of course his post-presidential years he wrote prolifically his African Game Trails and his adventures in South America and all that stuff.
So would you say then that his writing and the quality of his writing is a step above Obama's?
Lordy, it's a step above everybody's, really.
Okay. All right.
It's engaged. First of all, it's technically interesting if you're into that sort of thing. I know nothing at all about naval warfare, and frankly, he throws around terms that I couldn't possibly understand, but he uses them like
Yeah, okay.
It became the definitive history of the naval history of the War of 1812 on both sides of the Atlantic. It's incredibly fair. He evaluates everybody from both sides, and he analyzes the respective throw weight of the different guns and everything. It's brilliant. It's brilliant, and he rips apart previous historians on both sides. Absolutely destroys them in some cases. But he goes to the original sources, and he's careful in his research and brilliant in his analysis, and everyone on both sides agrees that if you want to know what happened, this is it. He finishes it up not with a naval battle, but with a fantastic analysis of the Battle of New Orleans, which had
nothing to do with the war.
In the end, had nothing to do with the war. In fact, most of the naval battles really had nothing to do with the outcome of the war. But he analyzes. Look, we either won or fought to a draw or whatever most of the naval battles of the War of 1812. They weren't many, but there were, and he compares that to contemporary battles that the English fought with other navies, where they completely dominated them. And he says, yeah, this didn't accomplish anything with respect to the war itself. Well, the war itself just kind of petered out because there was no more need for it. And neither side really won. It was a draw, but
maintain the status quo.
But it gave confidence and respect to the American Navy and the American naval tactics and training, and showed that we were really serious. In the process, he really dumps on Jefferson, the Virginia boys in their presidencies. I mean, Jefferson had this wacky anti-Navy. He says if it wasn't for the Federalists establishing the Navy, building the ships, we would have been sunk because Jefferson's idea was to put a few schooners out, essentially to have a coast guard, and that's all we need is these little ships. And the little ships were of no value whatsoever up against the British Navy. Right. It was the Constitution and her and the other ships that were built under Adams that enabled us to at least earn some respect along the way. And he also, I mean, he's 23. And he's already thoroughly analyzed in his own mind the presidencies of these men and of Jackson. And he refers to Jackson, I wish, actually I have it here, but I don't think I could find the page right away. What the nation owes Jackson for his leadership in the War of 1812. He says, later, he did some good and much evil as president. But, he says, you cannot, no one but Jackson could have managed those wild frontier troops that he had, who ordinarily would have been cut and run militia, but he carved them into an army in a short period of time. And of course, in the Battle of New Orleans, they
took it to him.
They just destroyed that British army.
The British Army made some real fundamental mistakes down in New Orleans, the way they set themselves up and what they thought they could accomplish against these raggedy frontiersmen. But Jackson had, I think he had such a hatred of the Brits because of his experience in the Revolution.
Yeah, he was a 13-year-old. He was actually in the American Revolution as a 13-year-old, and his family had been brutalized by the British. Yeah.
And he'd gotten poorly treated by some Brits himself.
Right, himself, yes.
And he just saw in the War of 1812 an opportunity to grab this thing by the scruff of its neck and just beat it like a rented mule for all it's worth. And he came out.
His defensive tactics were brilliant. But these were not. Roosevelt points out, which I didn't really know, these were not raw British troops we're talking about. These were guys who were veterans of the Peninsular Campaign with Wellington.
Yes.
So these guys were hardened veterans who had defeated everybody up to that point.
But they attacked a well-fortified army.
Mhm.
The army saying what Jackson turned them into, and came across such
Fired our
horrible
guns
terrain.
and the British kept a coming. Weren't
Love
so
that
good,
song,
quite so
Johnny
many as there
Horton.
was a moment ago.
You know, I listen to this radio station. It's the True Oldies station, and you can call in and request a Golden Oldie. I'm thinking sometime if I'm by phone, I want to request that one and sing to Bismarck. Okay,
Oh,
another
yeah, I haven't
Johnny
heard that in
Horton
years.
song. You know.
Oh,
But-
is that right? They were the same author?
yeah, Johnny Horton.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, fired our guns, fired again, and the British went running down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico.
They ran through the briar and they ran through the bramble. They ran through the places where rabbit
Oh
couldn't
man!
go. Yeah.
Roosevelt points out everything that was done wrong tactically on our side as well. I mean, he's very, very fair in analyzing things, but doesn't mention Davy Crockett by name. But of course, he was there. He was there with the Tennessee troops.
Yes, he was.
As you would know if you have ever watched the Davy Crockett
Series of Walt Disney.
Walt Disney.
Absolutely.
That was that episode 1, I think.
That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But number 2 was Davy Crockett Goes to Congress, and the third one was Davy Crockett at the Alamo.
And that was the end of that series. Walt learned, don't kill off your hero so quick. You probably could have put a couple things in between to keep it going. Well, no. The third one was Jim Fink on a riverboat.
No, that was the fourth one.
Oh, they made it. That's right.
They did the 3 together,
That's right,
and
you're right.
of course he dies at the end of the third one.
So you gotta go. There's some
Davy
prequels.
Crockett died at the Alamo.
So then you had to do a prequel to that one. Yeah,
So then they did the prequel with the fantasy one, because Davy Crockett was one of those early legends in his own time, where they would just make up these fantasy stories about Davy Crockett, even during his lifetime.
and he
Yeah,
supported all
and
those
then
guys.
I mean he was not a young man when he died at the Alamo. I mean you're talking the War of 1812 to 24 years later was the War of Texas Independence, 1836.
He was in his 50s.
Yeah. He was more like John Wayne than Fess Parker. God, that was a great. I mean, I remember watching that the first time around in what was it, 56 that it came out, something like that.
I had one. I had a
Or
coonskin cap.
55, as it's featured in. It's got to be 55 because it was featured in Back to the Future. Everybody was singing the Ballad of Davy Crockett.
Yeah, I had my coonskin
Every
cap.
kid in the neighborhood had a coonskin cap.
I had that, and I had a plastic flintlock rifle. Absolutely.
Yeah. Old Betsy.
Yeah.
Truth be known, he did not have Old Betsy at the Alamo.
No, they still have it in one of the museums. Yeah. Well, he thought he was going to come back anyhow, so.
Well, why would he use the same gun for 25 years?
Yeah. So.
I'm not much shucks at speech making or politics, but I do know the woods and the folks in them. And if you here in Tennessee send me to Congress, I promise to represent you as best I know how.
That's right. And when we get done with my speak, drinks are on me. That's how one of Jackson's.
Remember who played his sidekick?
Buddy Ebsen.
Buddy Ebsen.
Yeah.
Making a comeback. A comeback that would last for another 30 or 40 years. Jeez.
Yeah. That was.
So is that it? Are we out of time?
Yeah, 2 hours. We did.
All right then. So I guess we'll be back next week with more of the show with no name. But until then, be kind to your web-footed friends. For a duck may be somebody's mother. Be kind to your friends in the swamp, where the weather is very damp. Now you may think that this is the end. Well, it is.